Hey y'all, welcome to the next Sidebar with Chinney. Things have really changed since the last one, right? At the last Sidebar, we had just finished episode 5, Playing Church. At that point, Shelonda was experiencing some discomfort because she had basically gotten thrown into this living situation with Ron. Mom was pregnant, they had gotten married, she was being forced to call Ron dad, and she had gotten spanked because of her reluctance to do so. Making matters worse, Ron had become a preacher, which Shelonda was very much opposed to. Shelonda was going to church with Ron and watching him present himself in a manner that was completely at odds with who she would come to know as a person, and that created some internal conflict for her. So, how did we get here? To big things? Well, it boils down to something very specific: grooming. Episodes 6 through 11 are unfortunately perfect examples of how young girls are groomed. Think about it. All it really takes is a need, and for the wrong person to provide an avenue to fulfill that need. Ron started playing into Shalonda's needs in episode 6, Trust and Privileges. He takes her to the shack after church for the first time, allegedly under the guise of celebrating him becoming a full-time preacher. But while he's there, he crosses the line by kissing her. But instead of owning it, he tells her that he just wants to make sure that she's not being too grown, reinforcing something that she has been cognizant of her entire life. When they get home, he allows Shalonda to order pizza instead of cooking, knowing that it will be a welcome relief. That's coupled with an invitation to attend the school dance. Those two things make Shalonda see the potential benefits of keeping her mouth shut. So now we reach episode 7, The Rooster. Things don't work out so well at the dance. Toya and her friends talk about Shalonda's clothes and hair, which causes Shalonda's self-esteem to take a hit. Ron does what seems to be his due diligence at the time by telling Shalonda that she's as beautiful as all the other girls, because that's what most fathers would do. He hugs Shalonda and it makes her feel good. But just as she starts to feel that it's a fatherly gesture, Ron kisses her in a way that's anything but. Not only does he kiss her, but he shows her how to kiss him back. Shalonda finds that she likes it because the kiss has been tied into a moment in time when someone has made her feel beautiful, which is a manipulative tactic. Now her feelings towards Ron are starting to change because he has the power to make her feel differently about herself. Episode 8, Trip Downtown, was a silent episode. That was an intentional thing on my behalf because I wanted you guys to pay attention. Everything that happened in that episode was a strategic measure on Ron's behalf. Ron allowed Shalonda to sleep in that morning, something that she wasn't ever allowed to do. When she awoke, he made her feel comfortable and told her that she could bypass cleaning that day. He offered to take her to breakfast, which was an anomaly based on the fact that money was tight and also because she was always expected to cook. Ron took Shalonda to breakfast and demonstrated the type of gentlemanly behavior that he knew she wasn't accustomed to. He opened doors and pulled out chairs, knowing that she would be impressed. Afterwards, Ron took Shalonda to a salon. After the disaster of the dance, he understood very well how impactful it would be for Shalonda to have her hair done. And that bled into episode 9, Yes, Daddy. After returning from the salon, Ron upped the ante, showing Shalonda that he had purchased jeans for her. An effective measure because she had only been allowed to wear dresses or skirts prior to that point. He shows her the clothes, then he very inappropriately stands there while she tries them on, starting the process of her developing comfort with being underdressed around him. When she asks if her mom would agree to the change in her appearance, he tells her that he'll handle it, which is a strategic ploy to put them on teams. He wants her to know that he'll be responsible for enactive positive changes on her behalf. He tells her that she looks nice with her new look. Then he kisses and touches her. Afterwards, he starts a pattern of behavior. He cuddles with Shalonda on the couch and watches a movie with her. Shalonda is forced to notice the disparity between her relationship with Ron and her mother's relationship with Ron. That day, she becomes her mother's competitor for Ron's attention. Episode 10, New Life, was another silent episode, also for emphasis. It starts with Shelonda going back to school after the disaster of the dance. I think it's important to note that Shelonda struggles in a very specific area. When Shelonda arrived at school and saw Tasha with Sean, she was very bothered. I know they were only 12, but you have to admit that there is something bothersome about the fact that she couldn't be happy for Tasha. And when you think about it, she only outed the situation with Ron because she wanted Tasha to know that she wasn't the only one that had something going on. Additionally, she knew that Tasha had a little crush on Ron. She hoped she'd be jealous. And when that backfired, Shelonda made up a lie saying that Tasha was just trying to get some get back. I think we can all agree that Tasha did the right thing, and Shelonda wasn't in denial about that. Even still, she wanted a confrontation with Tasha. She even went so far as to make Tasha think that there was something going on between her and Sean. That really did take a certain level of malice, especially for someone that young. But I think the biggest takeaway from that particular situation was the fact that Shelonda came to a very clear understanding. She knew that Tasha had done the right thing, but she had to sever ties with her to preserve her situation with Ron. She couldn't trust herself not to tell Tasha things, so she chose to end the relationship rather than taking the chance of exposing the situation with Ron. That says a lot about the impact that Ron was having on her. Tasha was her only friend, yet she was willing to throw that away for the feeling that she got from Ron. That same day, Tasha meets Monty. Their interaction sets the stage for an advancement in Ron's grooming. Shelonda is a 12-year-old girl who suffers from self-esteem issues. It's obvious that she's not unattractive, just not very well put together. Ron had to have known that she would receive positive attention when she showed up to school wearing nice clothes and with her hair done. He knew the impact that it would have on her self-esteem, especially as it related to attention from others, male or female. Assuredly, Ron wasn't affected by seeing Shelonda interact with Monty. His reaction was based on control. Even though he had only kissed her at the time, Ron was setting the stage for Shelonda to find it consequential to be involved with anyone else. And after beating her for talking to a boy, he blamed her for being too grown, reinforcing that it was her fault. Afterwards, he apologized and stated that he was jealous. That measure was effective because no one had ever made Shelonda feel like they cared enough to be jealous. And to seal the deal, he made it up to her by promising to get her hair done and to take her shopping. And now we've reached episode 11, Big Things. 3 big things happen in that episode, all notable in their own rights. First, Shelonda gets her period. Mom's at work, leaving Ron to handle things. This causes Shelonda to see him as the savior in the situation. That feeling is further amplified by the fact that Mom doesn't really have a conversation with her about it. She basically just tells her not to bring any babies into the house. Having to rely on Ron to handle some things and Sharon to have a conversation about some others furthers Shelonda's belief that she can't depend on Mom when it counts. The second and third big things kind of go hand in hand. Cassidy is born, and her birth gives a lot of insight into how Shelonda feels about herself. She references Cassidy as being beautiful. She describes her being light-skinned with beautiful hair, rosy cheeks, and pink lips. And while I don't want to play the color card in any way, you realize that Shelonda places a clear distinction between how Cassidy looks and how she looks. She says Cassidy sounded like a light-skinned girl with pretty hair, and I imagine that she'd be just that. She wouldn't be a Shelonda. That was reserved for girls like me. I look like a Shelonda. My hair looked like Shelonda's hair. Based on that reference, you understand that Shelonda placed value in a certain physical attributes, and she didn't feel that she met that mark. That certainly played a part in why she was able to form an attachment to Ron. In her mind, he was able to look past that and make her feel beautiful. I also think it's important to note that Ron made a habit of exerting physical violence upon Shelonda when things didn't go his way. He slapped her when Grandma asked if she could spend the night. He explains it away by saying that Shelonda put him on the spot, but it could easily have been intimidation. Knowing that she would be away from him, he needed to make sure that she wouldn't say anything about the inappropriate things that were happening. And then he followed that up with a threat, and it worked. Shalonda knew better than to say anything, but by that point, she felt that keeping the secret worked to her benefit as well. So now we've arrived at thing 3, the third big thing. In full disclosure, I wrote all of this, and some of it was still super hard for me to say out loud. It's not personal in any capacity. I think it just gets really heavy. Think about it. This is a 12-year-old girl. Ron is a whole entire grown man. He really slid into bed with this girl and made her think that she should enjoy what he was doing to her. And when her wheels started turning, he manipulated her into feeling like he was doing her a favor by taking his time with her, as if there was any time that should have been taken in the first place. The thought of all of that is disturbing. But in the mind of a 12-year-old girl with that kind of self-esteem, it was just what she needed. Shalonda's interactions with Ron caused her to rethink everything that she had ever been taught. She even wondered if her mother would have such negative feelings about men if she had the type of relationship with Ron that she did. Girl. Then Mom finally comes home from the hospital, and Shalonda realizes that she and Ron can't continue their normal pattern of behavior. You realize that she's starting to have some resentment towards her mother. I think it's also important to note that Ron plays into those things by telling Shalonda that he likes talking to her. He tells her that her mother doesn't really listen to him. She feels that she has found a way to outwoman her mother. The entire time, he is grooming her. So that's it for this sidebar with Chinney. The next episode is titled Ken. I won't spoil it for you, but I will say this. The introduction of Ken is a game changer for Shalonda in every single way. This is when the story really starts to get good. I'll let some more of the story build up, then we'll talk about it on the next sidebar with Chinney. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow Chinney Tells a Story on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in purchasing books by Shandora Warren, they're all available on Amazon. I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for helping me to create the world that I want to see. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Shine, little girl.